Gobble gobble, folks, and welcome back to my venture across the United States where I visit each state and cover some of the urban legends and local mythology present in the area. But wait, what's this? We're actually not covering a state today. Nope. Today, we're going to be covering some of the holiday-related folklore and mythology about my personal favorite holiday, Thanksgiving. Now, to most of us out there, Thanksgiving is all about turkey, stuffing, and turkey, and then loosening our belts. But you see, for some of us out there, Thanksgiving might be a little more somber. So how about this? Tuck in your chairs, tighten up your belts, and maybe put in some earplugs before your family gets to talking about politics, because today, we're covering a few urban legends surrounding Thanksgiving. Number 1 is the Wishbone. Superstition, competition, and anticipation. What's not to like about the Wishbone tradition? Now, this bit of folklore has pretty ancient roots, and essentially it's the tradition of breaking a forked bone that's located in a turkey's chest and making a wish as you pull, not even knowing if you've won the contest yet. This tradition dates back to ancient Italian folklore, where folks would perform the same act with two people simultaneously tugging on a fowl's wishbone. According to this tradition, whoever had the larger bit of the bone at the end would have their wish granted, because according to them, fowl had oracle powers. Now, this bit of folklore passed its way onto the Romans and then eventually to the rest of the world, and nowadays we find it at our Thanksgiving tables as a cherished American Thanksgiving tradition. And however selfish this wish might be, the festivity has become a communal act that, like the rest of Thanksgiving, brings folks together and encourages a spirit of optimism around the dinner table, infusing the holiday with a sense of magic and possibility. Number 2 is the tradition of leaving an empty seat at the Thanksgiving table. Now, there's plenty of ghost stories out there where folks think they've seen a departed loved one in a photo taken on Thanksgiving, or where people see a family heirloom move without prompting. But I think those stories do a bit of a disservice to what is a genuinely heartfelt tradition of leaving an empty seat at Thanksgiving dinner to honored, lost, or missing loved ones. In short, some families in America leave an empty seat at the dinner table on Thanksgiving to acknowledge someone they've recently lost, or just in memory of a family member's important part in their lives when the family comes together and they can't make it. This person doesn't always have to be deceased. As I said, sometimes this is also just done when there's a family member who's sick or serving in the military overseas, or just can't make it for any other important occasion. So if you see an empty chair at your friend's Thanksgiving dinner this year, keep in mind that it might be more than just an empty spot at the table. Number 3 is the Gobble Squatch. So picture this, you just finished your big Thanksgiving dinner, you've loosened your belt, and you decide that the best possible thing you could do to prolong your longevity would be to go for a short walk through the nearby woods after your Thanksgiving feast. You head down the tree-lined path, smiling and thinking about the fun times you had, when suddenly you realize it's not just your feet crunching on the leaves, but another set too, following close behind your own. You turn around to see a 7-foot-tall furry creature with a fan-shaped tail, a beak, and sharp, taloned feet. You, my friend, have been taken by the Gobble Squatch. The Gobble Squatch is a rare cryptid that emerges on Thanksgiving Day because of its affinity for cranberry sauce, turkey, and stuffing. Generally, it's portrayed as a watchful creature that folks might see looking in on their Thanksgiving dinner from nearby woods or through a home window, ensuring that the spirit of Thanksgiving festivities are on full display. It's also said that sometimes folks know the Gobble Squatch is close by its distinctive, low-pitched gobbling. Now, I don't want to be too ridiculous, but there are actually some supposed sightings of this creature over the years. For instance, in 1672, there was a young man in Virginia who was hanged because he kept claiming he saw a turkey with a gigantic wingspan, and apparently even Thomas Jefferson believed in the presence of a giant turkey in the Virginia mountains. There was even a sighting of a giant lumbering turkey as recently as 1861 in the Virginia mountains. So with all of this in mind, I'll let you decide for yourself. Is the Gobble Squatch real or just a hoax? If you ask me, I'll be thinking twice before going for a post-Thanksgiving dinner walk, smelling like the Squatch's favorite delicacies. Number 4 is the myth of the first Thanksgiving. Now, there's a lot of mythology around holidays, such as Halloween, Christmas, and more, that's meant to get the children all excited for the big day in ways that they can relate to. Whether it be the ghosts of All Hallows Eve or Santa Claus himself, throwing a bit of supernatural flair is fun, and usually the adults know it. But when it comes to Thanksgiving, I don't think many adults actually understand that the story we're told as kids isn't actually real. So let's start from the basics. What is the story of Thanksgiving that we're told in grade school? Basically, it goes that in 1621, the English Pilgrims and the Wampanoag Native Americans forged a bit of a friendship after the Pilgrims survived the harsh 1620 winter in New England with the help of Squanto. Following this, the Pilgrims were thankful to their native neighbors and as a show of gratitude hosted a multi-day feast with deer, fish, fowl, and produce on the table for all to enjoy. Let's be realistic though, this is an overly simplified version of what likely really happened based on the historical account that we have of this meal. Now, the only primary historical account of the mythical Thanksgiving meal is in a letter from December 11th, 1621 by an individual named Edward Winslow, which I'd hazard to guess that very few of us have ever even heard of. In short, Winslow in this letter described that there was a successful harvest with the help of the natives, in particular that Squanto was, I quote, a special instrument sent of God for their good beyond their expectation. This letter also stated that there was a meal the natives and pilgrims had together, saying that the Wampanoags and their leader, approximately 90 natives total, came to the pilgrim settlement in a celebration that lasted 3 days. Also, it's worth noting that the natives came to their settlement after the pilgrims were firing weapons. Factually, this is about where the Thanksgiving truth ends. Historians largely have their doubts about when this happened and how peaceful or welcome this celebration really was, and they generally seem to doubt that the natives were actually invited. To start, it's speculated that this event actually occurred sometime between late September and mid-November. In addition to this, many historians feel that the Native Americans were just in the area anyways and making diplomatic rounds to visit the pilgrims when they stumbled upon the harvest festival. There are also a few historians that have the opinion that the pilgrims firing off their weapons probably made the natives feel threatened, so they thought that stopping by the area with 90 armed men might be a nice reminder of who was in charge. Apparently, around the end of the harvest in late September is when diplomatic rounds were made by the natives in the first place, though, so it made sense for them to be there. There was also apparently a bit of a threat placed at the end of this, because it's documented that the chief of the Wampanoags made the comment that in March his people would be back to plant some corn on the south side of Plymouth, indicating that he still felt that the land that the pilgrims were on belonged to his people, which, it rightfully did. Also, just to burst your bubble even further, the odds that there were pumpkin pie or turkey at this festival were kind of slim. It's not explicitly mentioned that there was turkey, and the pilgrims probably brought very little sugar with them from England, and God knows they weren't going to waste it all on some pumpkin pies. At number 5, we have Black Friday, the cursed holiday. Now, for most Americans that were at least teenagers in the early 2000s, I don't have to explain a whole lot about Black Friday. To keep it brief, following a day where we give thanks to our family and friends and spend time with them, we wake up at 2 a.m. and trample all over each other for 15% off toasters in a big box store. It's like a planned annual look into post-apocalyptic America. These days, Black Friday has become a lot more of an online holiday per se, where we all just log onto Amazon Prime and buy whatever knick-knack is on sale. But back in the day, when it wasn't remote, Black Friday was actually pretty dangerous, and some would even say cursed. One notable incident was the death of a Mr. Demore on Black Friday of 2008 in Valley Stream, Long Island in New York. This occurred at a Walmart, which opened its doors at 5 a.m. to attract customers lined up to grab various discounted items. Mr. Demore was working at this Walmart as a holiday temp, and when the doors opened at 5 a.m., he got knocked over and trampled by the crowd. And when emergency employees arrived, he was pronounced deceased on the scene. While this incident only prompted Walmart to face a meager fine of $400,000, it did at least lead to discussions about crowd management and safety during major USA retail events. And Black Friday deaths aren't limited to accidents either. Sometimes the holiday craze can drive folks to act irrationally. In 2013, for instance, 2 individuals got into an argument over a parking space at a Kohl's department store in Chicago. I suppose given the store was so swamped, parking wasn't abundant. And in classic American fashion, one of the individuals shot the other, killing an unnamed 22-year-old. If you're looking for more tragedies, there's a lot more where these two came from too. A lot of people say that incidents like this, and perhaps Black Friday itself though, is a curse or a punishment for the way we acted in the olden days. There's a lot of rumors going around, such as for instance that slaves were sold at discount the day after Thanksgiving. And according to the Associated Press though, this is all a bunch of hoodoo voodoo. In reality, Black Friday or the day after Thanksgiving really doesn't have much of a history aside from law enforcement considering it a bit of a pain in the butt because of shopping-related crowd control. So even before it was named, it sounds like it was just the same old same old. Thank you all for joining me today at the table and feasting on some of the most wholesome folklore that this country has to offer. Whether you're breaking the wishbone and wishing for protection from the Gobble Squatch or facing down one in the woods right now as we speak, I wish you a happy Thanksgiving and an excellent introduction to the 2023 holiday season. Now, as I said in my last video, I'm making these videos for free, but if you'd like to change that at no cost to you, I'd appreciate it if you liked this video, subscribed to my channel, and turned on notifications. That way you won't miss the journey through our next state, Minnesota, and our next holiday, Christmas. But remember, most importantly, whether that empty chair at the Thanksgiving dinner table just shifted in the corner of your eye, or the crowd behind you at the big box store is getting a bit too rowdy, don't you ever forget, it's always story time.